Hey, Don and Christina.
Hello.
Hey, Max.
Hey, I got your email.
Oh, good.
Thrilled. Yeah, ecstatic to
Good.
see that. I don't know how it got lost, but
Yeah, sorry about that.
no, it wasn't you at all. Just sometimes they don't go through for some reason. So glad I double checked. And it was really cool to see the picture that they're picking up chess. That was awesome.
Yeah. David and Andrew have enjoyed it for a while, and my parents have wanted to learn, and so it's great. They're inspired to share it, and so they've been playing each day, and so we're up in Cambridge, where you guys are familiar with.
Oh, nice. Where about in Cambridge?
Right next to Mount Auburn Hospital on like in between Memorial Drive and Mount Auburn Drive. So
Awesome. How long are you there?
just the week. We'll go back on Sunday. We came up on Saturday.
I hesitate to ask, but how cold is it?
Not bad today. It snowed quite a bit yesterday. But it was really windy, and so it felt really cold. But today is pretty nice. It's supposed to get in the 50s. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
A Zoom with a friend, a colleague in New York yesterday, and it was snowing there too. So it looks like the Northeast got some precipitation.
Yeah, it's mostly melted now though.
Hello, Rollins family. Hi, Paola. We'll get started in just a minute.
Hey, everybody.
Hola. Buenos
Hola.
días.
Buenos días. ¿Cómo estás?
Tyler, bien. Tratando de entender cómo es esto, pero acá voy.
Es la primera vez que estás usando Zoom, pues.
No, no es la primera vez, pero es que está como formateado distinto.
De verdad.
Sí, está distinto a como normalmente lo usamos allá, pero bueno, pero nada, para aprenderlo.
Está bien. Si tienes cualquier pregunta a través del proceso, dime.
Bueno, muchas gracias.
De nada. Well, y'all, I think we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome. We're going to be recording this for folks who we get a lot of interest in this topic, but folks couldn't make the time work due to some work schedules. But excited to jump in. We've got a good mixture of Forest School Online and new Forest School families with us today. And just to encourage you to, at some point, grab a journal or a scrap sheet of paper, just something that you'll be able to capture some of your own thoughts and reflections on. That'll be relevant in just a minute. One exciting piece of news I wanted to share with you all is that there is an international education nonprofit based in Finland called 100, and as well as the Qatar Foundation, which is an international nonprofit focused on youth development and education. And in this month or early April, they are actually going to name the 10 most innovative schools in the world. And we found out last week that the Forest schools have made the list of the 10 most innovative schools in the world. And so, we are humbled and excited and grateful. But honestly, I wanted to bring that up to y'all just to say thank you for your partnership in this work. This really wouldn't be possible, what we're doing both in an online environment as well as an in-person environment. And it's fun to be a part of what we believe is the future of learning. And so thank you and congratulations to you all as well. So for today, what we're going to do is we're going to spend about 30 to 40 minutes together talking about reprogramming negative core beliefs. And the spirit here as parents and caregivers is what I like to call SIW and SIS. SIW, sharing ideas willingly, and SIS, stealing ideas shamelessly from one another, because we're all trying to rear beautiful humans. And this will be the topic. And then what we'll do is I'll go into a breakout room with Forest School in-person families. Max will stay in the main room with Forest School online families. In fact, Max, I'm going to make you a co-host right now. So you should be able to make some breakout rooms as well. And that's going to be the format. Does that sound good? Okay. Have you ever heard any of these phrases from your children? No one likes me. I'm no good. Nobody cares. I can't do it. I always get in trouble. No one understands me. This is going to be awful. And maybe these aren't the, negative phrases or statements, but maybe there are some other ones, that our children might bring up at some point. When children do the things they naturally do, like push limits, ignore instructions, explore beyond their ability, or act inappropriately, obviously it's our jobs as parents and caregivers to redirect them. While disciplining children, it's important to understand that how we do this redirection or teaching might have a lasting effect on the child. And something called negative core beliefs can grow in children when they start to believe their behavior or the way the person disciplining them acts is as a result of who they are as people, that they are faulty. When something happens in life, a person interprets that event and tucks it away into categories of beliefs. These beliefs, called core beliefs, are based on deep-seated feelings we have about who we are, how people see us, how the world is, and what our future holds. Our core beliefs create part of the lens through which we see and experience life. They affect how we interpret a situation, if we see the world with glass half empty or half full. And those comments come from a former teacher and psychotherapist who's now head of a school and a colleague of ours called Andrea Lowen-Nair. And it's this idea that, and you may be familiar with this, you may be more familiar with this than I am, but this idea that the experiences that we go through in life can compel us to form some inaccurate, destructive beliefs about ourselves or about other people. And so really and we really want to focus on today how as parents we might redirect our children in loving and constructive ways. I personally have been doing a lot of work on myself as it relates to negative core beliefs, just a part of my own healing and growing as a man. One of the, if you want to do some further research into this idea of negative core beliefs, there's really if you're familiar with cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, you may be, is a great resource to really dig into this even more. CBT is a form of talk therapy designed to help people recognize unhelpful thoughts and behaviors and learn how to change them. I'm not a therapist or psychotherapist. Max isn't either. We're not experts in this. But there is in the education field, a growing appreciation for bringing some of the learning, into an online or in-person classroom to really address some social and emotional factors and really address some of these potentially negative core beliefs that influence, that we can potentially have that would get in our own way. So some more examples of what I'm talking about that kids might think. I'm worthless, I'm inadequate, I'm a failure, people will hurt me, people are bad or malicious, people cannot be trusted, I'm a failure in life, I don't have any purpose, I'm never going to be happy, I'm too busy, I'm too young, I'm too old, I'm not smart enough, I'm unlovable, I'm weak, I'm a failure, I'm not enough, I'm pathetic. Again, these are just examples. And so again, what we're doing today is, and I'm going to walk us through a process, but as we redirect our children, how might we help them embrace more accurate, more positive core beliefs about themselves and about others? So before we begin the process, any thoughts, questions, or reactions to kind of the overall theme and topic of what we're discussing? Okay, yes, go ahead. I saw your hand raised there.
Okay. It's Fawn Watkins. And this right here is one of the things I'm most interested in with our kids are developing a great sense of self-esteem and confidence and counteracting these negative thoughts about themselves and how to really cultivate and edify them
Mhm.
in having strong sense of who they are and what they can do, even especially in the midst of challenges. And so this, I'm really grateful and happy that we're having this conversation, this discussion, and I'm constantly researching and investigating more tools and skills to help do that for them or with them and for myself.
Love that. Thank you, Fawn, and great to see you. Other comments or questions before we jump in? Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to do it ourselves first. And then we're going to sort of zoom out and share with one another what we felt like that experience was like. And then we're going to sort of imagine, what if we did this with our children, what it could look like, if we guided them through a similar process. So if you have a journal or a scrap sheet of paper or a place on your phone or your laptop to jot down notes, that'll be helpful. And I want to invite you to reflect and start with number one. And I'm going to give you about a minute to think. What is something recently that made you feel uncomfortable or that quote unquote triggered you? And if you'll just jot that down. Okay, hopefully everybody has something. Does anyone need more time? Okay. Number two, what are the thoughts that came to your mind with that experience? And just jot down as many thoughts that you can remember. Maybe jot down the final thought. Question number three, what about the emotions? What emotions came with that experience? And maybe the emotions came with the experience, and maybe the emotions actually came from the thoughts that you had about that experience. But what were the emotions? Okay, now I'm going to ask you to do something pretty challenging, or at least it's challenging for me. Maybe it's easier for you. What's the negative core belief behind it all? And if you struggle to know or identify it, I'm going to drop in the chat a link to some examples of negative core beliefs that it could be. You can see it in the Zoom chat now. And just try and look inward and discern whether or not there was some sort of in yourself a negative core belief behind those thoughts and emotions and feeling of discomfort. And jot it down. Anybody need more time? Okay. This should be maybe the easiest thing to remember. What's the action that you took? Or what action do you typically take in response? Okay, now it's time to turn the corner and to reprogram that negative belief. I want to invite you to jot down what is the exact opposite of that negative core belief. So for example, if you believed something like, I am insignificant or not worthy, for me, the exact opposite would be, I'm worthy, I'm significant. You know, I'm not good enough, I am good enough. What is, write down the exact opposite of the negative core belief or negative core beliefs that you have. Okay, number 7, can you list 5 to 7 pieces of evidence for this new belief. That is the opposite. What are 5 to 7 pieces of evidence? And if you can go beyond 5 to 7, great. I've heard some experts talk about listing 10 to 15 pieces of evidence for this new belief. But if you'll just think about your life, think about the world, and try and identify pieces of evidence for this new belief, and just list them out. "30 more seconds. List as many pieces of evidence as you can think of. And lastly, what's a new possible action that you can take, or a new possible action you could take in the future? Okay. Thanks, everybody. Before we open it up as a group to discuss, I want to invite you into breakout rooms to discuss 3 questions. One, just what was that process like? Did you learn anything about yourself? Was it helpful? 2, can you imagine, guiding your heroes through a similar process? What would you keep, add, or change about the process? And then 3, if our heroes were encouraged to do this process over the years, like, what do you think would happen? I'm going to drop these questions in the chat and open up breakout rooms, and I'll invite everybody back in about 10 minutes. And maybe start by introducing yourselves in the breakout room. Any questions about the prompt? Okay, see you in a bit. Max, do you mind joining? Oh, yeah, thanks. Thanks, everyone. You might wonder what might this look like for children, in a school setting, for example. Sometimes graphic organizers or charts like this could be used for younger children. What happened? And learners can kind of write in and, as you think about what happened, what were your thoughts? What were your actions? What were your feelings? Write those in the boxes. And then let's think about what could be some new thoughts, what could be some new feelings, some new actions that might result. But I think the reason, or one of the reasons we're talking about this, especially in the context of learning, and here's a quote from Dr. Aaron Robb: "True educational equity is achieved when every child develops not just the knowledge, skills, and character, but also the beliefs that they need to reflect accurately on their world, make choices aligned with their values and preferences, and to work with others." So I'd love to just open it up here in the final few moments before we split off into Forest School Online and Forest School in person. What did your group discuss? What was that process like? Can you imagine guiding heroes through it? If we guided our heroes through this process over years, what would happen? What did your group discuss? And feel free to just come off mute and share.
We discussed not only how timely it was for us individually, but how powerful the whole experience was. I, of course, had to take a call right at the beginning. So I came back to these questions and I was like, wait, what are we like? Oh my gosh, this is intense, right? So I feel like guiding our heroes through it, I think that it would have to be at just the right time, not when the emotion is high. And, but conversely, doing this process consistently over the years, I think would be extremely powerful, extremely beneficial to my hero, to get her to open up her mind a little bit, to have the idea, I love what is the exact opposite? And then what is the evidence for that belief? I think that's, it's just a big part of this exercise and really important. And that's what kind of helps us move along and be better people, right?
That's great. Thanks, Diana. Glad it was timely.
Something Diana said, and I agree with it, that I know that I need that space between sort of the action and the reaction, right? And so and I think remembering that our learners also probably need that space. So when they're in the moment, that's probably, at least in our family, that's probably not the best time, but then allowing that space, that processing time, and then having that thinking, is probably helpful.
Thanks, Christina. Sounds so far like two folks have said, the timing of this is important, Other thoughts? Hernan?
Yes. Tyler, I just thought that we maybe imagined, and we were talking in the group, that sometime when we talk with our daughters, our daughter want to answer now. The guys, and I saw that we are in a process, in a learning process, because we are new in the school, and this is a lot of different of the other schools. And we talk a lot with our daughter, with my wife, that we have to be patient, and we need time for these changes, and we have to be patient with us and with our kids, that they need to understand that some changes take times, and they need to understand that they need sometimes in the process, because the new guys say, oh no, I want to know now. I want to learn all now. I want to be so fast like my friends, because my daughter learned Spanish, and now she understands English, but she writes slow. But this is why she needs understand how he has to be patient.
Hernan, if I'm going to connect what you're saying to this process, it makes me think maybe one of the negative core beliefs for our children sometimes could be, I'm too slow. You know, I'm not going fast enough. I'm not good enough.
Yes.
You know, so what is the exact opposite of that is, you know, I'm not too slow. I am good enough, you know.
Yes.
And what's some evidence for that, you know, and helping them grow and learn patience through some of these questions.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Maybe one more thought or comment or question. Can you imagine, you know, guiding your own heroes through this at home? And would you be more formal? Would you be informal? Would you do what I did and have them write it down? Or would you just kind of talk to them? What would you do?
We decided that what we're going to do is for their deep books, we're going to find books that is this subject for the kids to read for their deep books and try to implement it that way, because we're learning it too. And we just started reading a book about this, so it's very timely for us. But we're going to try to sneak stuff in. Is what we're going to do.
Well, and then in this, what's so great, we had kind of touched on in our breakout session too, is having more of a process for this, because we sort of have these concepts around that we're going through that may not work in a process format for our learners. And so this is amazing. And then having the additional tools with kind of here's what it is and here's the opposite, along with the emotions, you know, the feelings will, all of those additional tools, I think, help us to be able to kind of formulate or put into a process, if you will, in a way that I think is going to be a lot better to kind of implement with our learners. And without that framework, I think we sort of waffle around going, and we have this idea, but sort of how do we make that into a process that's truly going to be translatable, workable, and you know, beneficial and a success for our learners. So this is very timely and fantastic.
Great. Thanks for sharing. The deep books is a great idea. Yeah, I have 4 children, and their ages 9 to 17. Really only one of them, I think, would have the interest or patience to do it in a formal way and actually write it out. The other 3, it would need to be informal, just from questioning relationally at the right time, you know, so I don't know how your kids are. Last question. I mean, if our heroes did this for years, you know, what do you think it would do to them? What would they grow?
Well, they wouldn't be 53 trying to figure it out like us.
So some experience. What else?
I think it's beautiful to be able to catch yourself in a negative mindset. And these steps were great because you find the core belief and you flip it, and then you find the evidence to that. So it really you start to catch your negative beliefs a lot sooner. The negative, in my world, tapes. I don't think kids know what tapes are, but like the tapes that are going in your head, right? And so those have become shorter and less frequent. And you really do start to see yourself in a positive light. You have more confidence and more abilities. And so to have our heroes learn this process now and do it consistently, I think really gives them a step above. It really helps their mental health.
Yeah.
I totally agree. And I feel like creating more space for joy and peace and thoughtfulness. And I do believe that our thoughts become what we feel and inform our choices and inform where we are. And so you can think about what you're thinking and cultivate, that sense of fortitude and truth of what really is true, and not making choices based on lies about yourself, but on cultivating real truths about yourself. I think it just allows them to really be able to take advantage of life.
Love that. On that comment, Fawn, well, and thanks everybody. This is, weighty, for us to have done ourselves, but a great experience, hopefully, for you. I'm going to take Forest School in-person families into a breakout room, and then Max is going to stay here in the main room. And Max, I'll just let you kind of close out the Zoom when you're done. The in-person families and I will end at the end of the hour. Y'all go as long as you need to. But nice to see you all from Forest School Online, and enjoy your time with Max.
Awesome. All right, and now it's time for the FSO party. We've got all the FSO families. Great to see everybody. Awesome. Sweet. Yeah, we've got a really strong showing. We've got a whole bunch of families here from all over. We got Texas, we got Illinois, we've got Georgia, Virginia. We have Uganda. The Andriat Sitohainas are here. So glad that we were able to get the technology to work so that you all are also joining us. Awesome. Okay. So yeah, we have about 15 minutes. And during this time, I wanted to share 2 big updates about this year, and then open it up as an open forum to discuss anything that is top of mind just with your family and with our school. So the 2 big updates are for curriculum. Like Tyler shared, we have been named as one of the 100 most innovative schools in the world by 100 and the Cutter Foundation. And a big part of why, so that's, a huge celebration. And a big part of why is the work that we've been doing around school iteration and reimagining school as an action research institution in partnership with families. There are not a lot of schools that put families' ideas front and center in terms of curriculum design and the customization of badge plans and of the school model. We do. And part of how we're doing that is by getting your feedback for what we're going to do next year. So we have the re-enrollment, we have the numbers, we have the families, and we have capacity for next year to build our school up to 60 learners total. So that will be capped out at 20 per studio. So yeah, right now we have the numbers, we have the families who have re-enrolled, and we'll be able to continue enrolling until every studio is at 20. And once it hits 20, we're capping it there because we found that in order to have an effective studio culture, we really start to lose that sense of community and that sense of belonging once it goes above 20. So every studio will cap out at 20. And with the families re-enrolled, we will be surveying you to see what signature learning experiences are going to be most pivotal and most relevant for your learners for next year's program. We're going to take that into consideration to design our quests, to design our storytelling, and to design some of the other signature features that we have, like our character education program. So be on the lookout from me. I'll be sending an email to all of our re-enrolled families. And really, there are 2 things that you should be thinking about. The first is topics. So for example, one of our learners in high school loves World War II. That is a very specific topic. That is something that is bite-sizable and that we could easily turn into a quest. So be thinking about specific topics that your learners would love or that you would love for them to do. If there's a vision you have for the way that they should be developing. So topics like World War II or budgeting for a house, like household budgeting, very specific, concrete topics. The other category to be thinking about is around 21st century skills. We call these the adaptive skills. So this is things like numerical literacy, procedural fluency in mathematical calculations, critical thinking, reading fluency with texts, and what kind of texts you want them to be able to engage with. Do you want them to have fluency with online reasoning skills to do research and to be able to identify primary and secondary sources, to be able to tell about bias? What are the biases from the different media that they receive? I love this stuff. This is like what gets me in my flow zone. So when I send you this info, I'm going to give you different examples just to kind of prime your mind and have you considering. But I also want you to be percolating now, because I recognize once I give you examples, that's also going to submit you to my bias. And I want you to be thinking about it independently so that your own perspectives are most informing the decision making that we do. But yeah, this curriculum process, it's going to have specific topics. It's also going to have our overarching adaptive skills. And as a part of that, it'll have our overarching character education that we're working on. All of our learners have created a purpose statement, and we have our learner outcomes. We really want character to be at the core of that, so that when they're thinking about their development, they're not just thinking about their math, their science, their social studies. They're thinking about, who am I as a person? And when they're creating plans for their development, we're using languages of virtue. I want to be courageous. I want to be resourceful. I want to have gratitude as something that I'm known for. And we're going to build that into their badge plans. So the types of experiences they get in their apprenticeships and in their self-directed courses, so that we put a spotlight on how they're building their character through those different experiences, not just the academic piece. So that's just like a really quick high level. Over the next several weeks, this is not just going to be a single email. This is going to be a set of correspondences that require digging in to each other's feedback. So my role, I'll be the one managing it all. I'll be taking all of your feedback and then putting it in a usable way that will then go back to you for another round of revision. And so over several weeks, we will take all the big ideas, the beautiful brainstormed ideas, and then cull that into our set of learning experiences for sessions 1 through 7 of next year. So this will be a process that we'll do through correspondences mostly via email, but also in upcoming parent coffees through March, April, and we'll have it finalized by May, so that when we break for the summer, your learners already know what they have to look forward to for their upcoming school year. So yeah, so that's the process. That's my big update. You can start thinking now about what you want those meaningful experiences to be. But yeah, I'll stop there, and I wanted to just open it up for questions or anything else that we want to discuss as a school community for the last 5 minutes.
Hey, Max. I just had one thought that came to me just now, but I was sort of thinking about the quests, and I think it's been really helpful being able to sort of give feedback through this sort of like weekly feedback. But one thing I was wondering whether there's an opportunity perhaps to, after the quests are done, whether it'd be helpful for you as guides as well as for the developers, which sometimes is you and sometimes other people in the Institute, but to sort of have a meeting with some of the parents or parents and learners to sort of get feedback on sort of like, you know, maybe what went well, what didn't go well, maybe so that, you know, to be able to put back if those quests are done later, you know, what worked and what didn't work, and you know, where did it go deep enough, where, you know, where didn't it go deep enough, things like that.
I love that. Yeah, we just started last session a series of signature learning experiences called retrospectives, and this is totally in line with the retrospectives. You all know, because you had to do it, your learner had to do badge clearance with you, where they showed you their badge checklist and they shared, you know, here are the badges I earned. Here's what I'm planning to do for next session. So we're going to keep that process of retrospectives. One of them is a form that the learners fill out that goes through, it breaks down the quest into each of its different challenges, and they're able to fill out which ones were effective, which ones were not, and why, so that we can see which of the challenges were working, and more specifically, what the instructional strategies were that were either engaging or disengaging. So we're going to keep getting that feedback through these forms. But I want to add what you said around also building in time, where we could hear from the learners and hear from the parents and having like a discussion time. So I'm going to take this back to the PLC and see if we can find a time. It would probably be that last week of the session that would just be totally optional, but a space for families and learners to give more voice to those retrospectives.
Okay, thanks, Max, for this. Mine has to do with an observation that we've made that quite a bit of the Civ and Quest work, a fair amount of it is not done by the learners. And our concern is there a sense that this has to be complete? Or how do we deal with this? How are you dealing with this, and how should we be approaching this?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, so I always think about what's the fail safe and like what would happen worst case scenario, just because that helps me know what we can build from. So worst case scenario, if a learner does not complete all of the work for a quest, let's say a quest badge, they are able to make it up later on. All of our challenges are available on Google Classroom, and the recording for each of our quest days is also on Google Classroom. So they could independently go to Google Classroom, watch the challenges that they missed, and then make up that work in order to earn the badge on the back end and still get awarded that badge. I think the big thing we're trying to develop in our learners here is executive function. And part of executive function is time management and self-regulation. So one of the lessons that they're learning is how much time will this take? Because it sure does sound nice and reassuring that I can make this work up. But then when I think about when am I going to fit that into the day, and, you know, adding that on to the work that I'm currently doing, and that then becomes a learning moment for them around how their present actions affect their future opportunities. So, and this really is getting at the heart of the self-directed model, is that when they discover that, then they're starting to have more agency around their own decision-making and around their time management. So as a guide, these are the conversations we're having in our one-on-one check-ins. And as a parent, I would encourage the same thing, which is, asking, so what does this mean for this week? What does this mean for today? And starting with those questions will push the learners to build that time management and that executive function. I also see that we're at time, and I want to be respectful. I'm able to stick around. So if you want to keep this conversation going, I'm able to stick around for a little bit to do so. I have about 15 more minutes before we have our next event. But if you do need to hop off, you are welcome to log off. I know we are at time. But yeah, if we want to keep the conversation going, I'll stick around and we can keep this going for those who are able to stay.
I just really quick on that one note, if you don't mind. Inside of the quest, what I trying to need help navigating, helping my learner navigate is now there's some things that have been returned from previous sessions and they're just now being returned. So they were completed, but maybe something was had a grammar issue or something had some, and they've been stacking up of returned work, but it's from like maybe 2 or 3 sessions ago, to help her navigate going through all of, some of them are so long, it's like even remembering what they were or who she was partnered with at that time, and kind of the expectation for how much time will be given between work that has been completed and it being returned to be fixed or corrected. Meaning, say, if there's session 5 but things are being returned from session 2 inside session 5. That kind of, I'm trying to say, I'm talking out loud. Sorry, everyone's listening to my process. But getting to the point of how much time from a lesson being turned in is going to be allotted for that to be returned. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Did I make myself clear? Okay. I feel like I'm
Yeah.
talking in circles, but I think I'm getting my point out, but I'm not sure. Okay.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So, I'm thinking about where we are and where we're gonna be. And this is part of a new school that is developing in real time. So that much of a gap between when they do the work and when they get the feedback will not be the norm for the Forest School Online. It's not effective for learners. It was more a consequence of hiring a new guide. It was me for the first couple sessions by myself. And then getting the new guide to play catch up with the backlogged work. So, moving forward, they'll be getting that feedback the same session that they're getting the work. But so that's about what will be happening.
Right.
But for where we are now, there was the backlog that we're playing catch up with. I just got out of a PLC this morning where all 3 of us guides normed on what we're going to do to support the learners with their backlogged work. And basically, we're going to work during the one-on-ones to identify, I think you said it was like 40, 50 different challenges. Is that right? So.
Oh, what either had a comment or feedback or needed to be returned. She's kind of gone through some of them, but yes, yeah.
So the guide should be meeting with them in the next one-on-one to chunk through. If you do 5 a week, that spreads it out where it's not overwhelming, and then also gets you everything in before the end of the school year so that all of that backlogged work is balanced with the current work.
Okay. Oh, and I do want to say that she did go back in and comment on specifically what needed to be addressed, which was very helpful.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so that was very helpful, and it helped navigate through it didn't seem like so many assignments that needed to be redone. It was specific things, so it's more palatable.
We had a question about the feedback. So do you envision, Max, that feedback or return items might continue through the summer month and into next year? Or what does that look like, just to kind of help if learners are all celebrating, they're all caught up and they get some time off, but then they get a bunch of backlog work? I think that would be helpful to kind of understand what that might look like.
Yeah. So during the summer, the studios will be closed. What we do, so we have, let me pull up the exact date here. I have it. So we have our closing celebration Friday, May 20th and Saturday, May 21st. And then the following 2 weeks after closing celebration, that is the after action review. So those of you who are with us for the mid-action review, you all remember it was a badge ceremony. The learners shared their growth and development up to that point, and then what their goals were for the next year. The after-action review is going to be very much the same. It'll be the whole dream team coming to watch the learner present. Here's my summary of the whole year, what I've learned, the badges I've earned, and they'll know in that moment where they are for the end of the year. So those are the final 2 weeks of the school year, and it gives learners that time to really compile everything and get where they want to be for their after action review, which is really their final. It's the last thing they do for the year. And it also sets the stage for where they'll pick up in August when we start session 1. So we do that so that they don't get any of that backlogged info happening during the summer, and they're really able to do summer the way that they want to, without any no surprises over the summer. Yeah.
Oh, thank you for that.
Max, we had, let's see, you had sent David some information on graduation requirements and accreditation requirements, and we had some questions. We probably want to meet with you at some point, I guess, in the future, just to sort of for specific questions. But one thing we noticed that there was sort of 3 documents that all have sort of some pieces of the requirements. And that there's some difference in sort of like the units of measure between those different things, like some things using hours and some using units, which don't necessarily specify hours. And so I guess I'm not sure exactly where I'm going with this, but I was gonna say we're happy if it would help to sort of like help figure out, I guess, one model that sort of like that shows everything, I guess, in one place, or I don't know, is that
well, there's the graduation requirements, GAC accreditation requirement 1, the high school badge plan, and then the graduation tracks breakdown document, and they sort of have different information, and so it's hard to figure out. So
we weren't sure which one was the guiding document, or whether they're all a little bit of the same, of the whole.
Yeah, part of why it's like a cornucopia is that as an internationally accredited online school, our accreditation allows for it's international. So with that, we're going to have learners who are applying to colleges all across the US and all across the world, and the schools that they apply to are ultimately going to be what we look at for determining their specific badge plan. And those are going to vary based on the school. So what you're looking at with the GAC, that was based on the Forest School, because they are Georgia specific. And all of our families who are doing Georgia graduation, they look at that because it has scholarship implications for Georgia. But for the majority of our families as the online school, we don't need to follow the Georgia specific requirements because you're not eligible for the Georgia Hope Scholarship if you don't live in Georgia. So what we're looking at is what are the Forest School Online's graduation requirements. And those are the ones that are built into the badge plan that the learner is meeting with me, since I'm the high school guide, to discuss every week. And also, I would love to, if there's a family, I want to open this up because I know Don, you mentioned this. If you want to put time to look specifically at the graduation requirements for any family, please email me and we can definitely set up a time to do a video conference and go through the details there.
That'd be great.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'd like to do that.
Yeah, that'd be great because I think we have a lot of specific questions that probably aren't general. Everybody else, other people may not have the same questions. So, but yeah, so
yeah,
that'd be great.
Yeah, we also have questions. So that was a good question that you raised. We also need to meet Max individually and talk about our high schooler. Yeah, thank you.
I had one question, but maybe this might go for future. In doing the quests, have there been any conversations around maybe spending more than one day on a specific, so that quests have certain things, but they're changing frequently? Is there a conversation about maybe spending a little more time in each kind of topic?
Yeah, and that's something that, particularly with these quests being the first time that we do them, that's something that we learn in real time. What are the topics that we actually should take more time with? Mm-hmm. And what are the topics that perhaps weren't the best use of time? So our guides are already thinking around that when they create the sequence, but we don't know the impact it has until that's with the learners. So what you just asked though made me think I could bring that back to the guides to see what type of adaptability we have in real time to make changes to the calendar. Where, for example, if we find that challenge number 4 was a really good challenge and learners want to extend that, I'm comfortable with the guides tweaking the calendar to extend that an additional day and then find something else to replace it with. I think they just need to know that they have that flexibility if they find in real time what's effective.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's actually something me and Christina were talking about a lot the other day was, sort of looking back at our past and developing mostly for outdoor experiential education stuff, but you develop this great plan and you sort of pack it full of all the things you want to do, and then and then you do it and you realize, wow, that was and then you start peeling stuff off of that and you start and then you find out you do less and then you get deeper and deeper and end up with more, and that's why I was sort of offering that'd be great to have that opportunity to sort of give feedback of sort of to figure out okay, where's that, where are those sort of nuggets of truth that just sort of really get at it, and where's the stuff that just feels where you're trying to get to it but it's not really doing that sort of thing. But so yeah, that's a great. thank you, Max, for staying longer to sort of like entertain our questions and
Oh,
thoughts
yeah.
and stuff like that. It's really great having this dialogue as always. So,
Thank you, Max.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much. Bye bye.
Everybody, it was great to see everybody.
Sweet. All right, y'all. Until the next one.
Thank you.